welcome back to the Red Letter Disciple Podcast. My name is Zach Zender. In a couple minutes, I'm going to be joined by my co-host, Chris Johnson. And our desire is that this podcast was going to challenge you to be a greater disciple of Jesus wherever you are. And we believe that when all of us are challenged, inspired, and take those steps, man, we're going to be a fuller, truer, and greater expression of Jesus. And that's what the world needs to see. So come along on the journey with us. Today's going to be awesome. We've got Todd Doxzon in studio, our first ever in studio podcast recording. Pretty pumped about that. And so we're going to ask Todd what it's like to accomplish his childhood dream of becoming an NFL player. And how did God grow his faith in the NFL? We're going to talk about faith in professional sports. And Kurt Warner even was a huge help to him. And we're going to discover more about that. And the time that Dan Marino, famous Hall of Fame Miami Dolphin quarterback, was actually benched for Todd Doxzon. Yes, it happened. What happened next? It's going to be fun. And then we're going to pivot and talk about him leading a powerful, influential church here in Omaha called Love Church and what it's like to lead a church. And so pretty excited. It's a really amazing conversation. This episode is brought to you by our friend Carey Nieuwhof. He is leading an Art of Leading Change online course coming up here. And so we would love for you to get into the Art of Leading Change online course. The gap between how quickly you change, you know this, leaders, and how quickly things change, that's called irrelevance. So think about it this way, that change is inevitable. We all know that, but irrelevance doesn't have to be. So why, though, is it difficult to change? And why is that so hard to stay relevant in our culture? Whether it's the rapidly shifting culture we're in, or a new strategic vision, or budget constraints, or any other change you're leading, I think we all hear stories of leadership teams burning out, relationships being torn apart, and entire organizations being derailed. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what the Art of Leading Change course, taught by leadership expert Carey Nieuwhof, is going to be a step-by-step guide to navigating the right changes and implementing them successfully. I've been a part of this Art of Leading Change online course, and it's incredible. You're going to learn a playbook for leading change from start to finish, including like what changes are worth the risk, when to make changes, how quickly to make them, and how to communicate this change. Plus, all that while doing minimizing the opposition and pushback. And so until August 31, so that date's coming up quick, until August 31, you can sign up for the Art of Leading Change at its introductory price by visiting theartofleadingchange.com. Come on, pastors, you know it. Come on, leaders, you know it. You have a dream of what could and should be. So don't let go of that dream. Let's make it happen. Let's lead through change. Again, you can sign up at theartofleadingchange.com, and August 31st. Before that is the best time to secure the best pricing. So thanks to Carey and his team for getting behind the Red Letter Disciple podcast. Here we go, episode 14. Todd Doxzon, let's do this. All right, on the Red Letter Disciple podcast today, we've got an amazing guest, and he's actually here in studio with us today. We got Todd Doxzon, who is a former NFL player, a wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins before injuries took him out of the game and refocused his life on following Christ. And today, we find Todd leading an incredible life-giving church here in Omaha, Nebraska called Love Church. And so we're going to talk about his wild, crazy, awesome ride to how he got to where he got, and also what's happening with Love Church. Todd's also a husband, a father, a leader, a podcaster. So, I mean, he just does a few things like that. So welcome to the show, Todd.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor. It's an honor.
Hold on.
I think he's our first guest in studio.
This is our first guest in studio. But Todd, I read something in that was intriguing to me.
Yeah.
You played on the Dolphins team when Dan Marino was there.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
We're dating ourselves.
But
I didn't realize you were that old, man.
I know. Isn't that wild? For real.
But I read somewhere like Dan Marino went down. You went in and took the snap, and you rushed and got the first down.
Come on, let's go, baby.
Let's go.
Let's go. It's funny because here's a funny tidbit. I grew up playing for the KWAA Pee Wee Dolphins.
Oh, wow.
And Dan was my hero.
Yeah.
So now imagine being, all of a sudden you grow up, next thing you know, you're on the roster and Dan's right next to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is happening right now? It's mind blowing. Yeah.
I know this, maybe this is shocking, but I didn't have that much athletic ability, but I know, but I can't imagine, like growing up, all I wanted to do was be Magic Johnson. Right. And so my grandpa takes me to a stadium because they're doing this tour. Magic Johnson is going to be at the stadium. We show up as soon as the stadium opens, and little 8-year-old Chris is there with his Magic Johnson action figure. There's nobody else in the entire stadium. Magic Johnson walks into the stadium. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, that's Magic Johnson. And he comes up, and I said, Magic. And he looks at me and I go, can you sign this? And I'm like stuttering. He goes, man, I can't do autographs, kid. Walks off. Nobody else in the stadium. There's nobody else in the stadium.
No.
And I was like,
sorry, dude.
But you know what?
What a fumble.
I still like Magic Johnson. Don't get me wrong. But I can't imagine like growing up, wanting to be Magic Johnson, and then there you are, and you're right there next to Dan Marino. That must have been so cool.
So here's the thing, because Dan got a bad rap in Miami, and I'm walking in there. I don't know what to expect.
Right.
Well, it was the first week I'm there. Dan invites me to join his family and a couple of players to go. Speaking of hockey, we were talking about hockey earlier off air. We go. He's got a Skybox suite for the Florida Panthers game. We're eating filet mignon with Dan Marino and his family.
You're like, what?
And I'm like some scrub rookie.
Yeah.
But I'm like, who? Why are you guys like talking trash about Dan? Dan has a little peon rookie that he invites to this.
That's pretty cool.
It was super cool, man. And he treated me extremely well. We had some pretty good jokes together, but he was really a legend. He treated me.
That's so cool. And I know you got some questions, but listen, so you played at the other school in Iowa where you were quarterback.
I thought that would come out now. Okay.
Chris,
hang
you're
on.
bringing that out early, bro.
I am surrounded right now by Iowa State and Iowa.
But you have Iowa State colors on.
Not anymore.
Actually, by contract, you have to keep
that. You have both because you got black and yellow.
Black.
And red.
Well, I got the sequins were supposed to go all the way down, but they didn't. That's neither here nor there at this point. But yeah.
Are you going to be okay with an Iowa State?
Todd is like so nice. He's like unlike any other Iowa State graduate I've ever met in my entire life. So I think we can get through this, but I'm just saying I'm a little bit older than Todd even. But we basically kind of went to school around the same time. Yeah, which is insane.
There you go.
But golly, I had a question that I was going to ask, and now I kind of fumbled it. But also, here's another thing to bring up. You're a Nebraska boy, so the Iowa guys will talk. You're from Sioux City, right?
I was born in Sioux City, Iowa.
Okay, yeah. And so one of the people that kind of mentored you spiritually was Kurt Warner, the great Kurt Warner.
That's crazy.
Dude, look at your life. Dan Marino, hey, look at these all-star studs that you've hung out with. This is my only brush with fame is being rejected by Magic Johnson. And this is pretty spectacular right now.
And we'll get into it, but one of the coolest things is Kurt, how God sent Kurt into my life. Yeah. There's no way I'd be standing here with you guys talking about the glory of God and what he's done, the grace of God in my life, if it wasn't for the timely insertion of, the Kurt Warner before anyone knew who he was. Yeah. I signed with the Patriots. They're sending me to Amsterdam. Kurt signs with the Rams. They're sending him to Amsterdam for NFL Europe. I mean, imagine I just get saved. It's like Amsterdam, bro.
Right.
Women, weed, it's all good.
Exactly.
Those are my two main things. Yeah. All of a sudden I get saved. God's sending me there. If it wasn't for Kurt being my roommate and training me, what does it look like to be a godly man? You can be a competitor, and still love Jesus. I never knew. Yeah. Thought those were mutually exclusive ideas.
Right.
And here I'm living with this guy for 4 months. It's just I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
That is so.
And we started a program called 180 for men coming out of addiction. They literally live in a home that we bought for 4 months, and it's all patterned off my time with Kurt.
So you're
physical discipline, spiritual discipline, getting healthy. And I just texted Kurt, three days ago, they were doing like an NFL Network preview.
What's his number?
Yeah. And I just, a lot of times I'll literally just, when I'll see him, hey, great work. Just wanted to remind you how grateful I am of your investment in my life.
That's so cool. So you're still in contact and
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Super cool guy.
So he comes into your story at a really awesome time. So I want to dive into that, but I want to get to that part of your story first. Yeah. So let's go back to because I think as a young boy, almost every young boy has a dream to grow up to be a professional sports player. So was that actually your dream?
For sure.
And if so, what's it like to accomplish that?
No kidding.
It's a really good question. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a good and the bad, and I'll try to give you the both in a condensed version. I know we only have a certain amount of time, but it might be good for some of the listeners here. My parents got divorced when I was 7, and I didn't know, but I had these major identity and rejection issues that started developing. And so I found athletically, when I would excel athletically, I got attention, I got affirmation, I got acceptance, and I began this identity that was based on performance. And so, you know, on one hand, it's good because it's this crazy motivation that really makes you excel. On the bad side, obviously, well, what happens when that goes away?
Right.
So as a kid, you know, you're growing up and you're excelling baseball, basketball, football, and it was a dream. I mean, I specifically to play football. And again, it's so weird. I'm playing for Pee Wee Dolphins my whole Pee Wee career and end up living the dream and making it. And so it's good and bad. You know, my first team was actually the New York Jets, and I got hurt in training camp, pulled a hamstring. And Bill Parcells, it was his first year in New York, brought me into his office and he said, "Todd, we loved what you were doing, but we don't keep rookie free agents that get hurt. Good luck, buddy." And
what a bummer.
So this was before I came to Christ. Well, again, no identity.
Yeah.
It's all based on, I'm going to, be a big star and you're all, the girls are going to love me and I'm going to make money and position and power. And it was all identity. And so all of a sudden now I'm done. I have no identity.
Yeah.
Go back to Iowa State to finish my degree in Lames, Iowa, and hit
God
rock bottom.
You.
I mean, Chris,
well, that's a good place to hit it.
It was seriously for really the worst. So I get a job with a sandwich store delivering sandwiches freaky fast, but tragically, I got involved in delivering weed freaky fast as well. So I'm waking and baking, fornicating, and hit this horrible position in life. And God, it was like this Saul to Paul conversion. God gets my attention one night in the middle of a drug deal and a delivery of a sandwich. And
Talk
God
to me
came
about
into
that.
my,
Tell me
what happened.
I got to see, and this is so weird because people sometimes when I share this, they're like, I don't know. But I'm driving in a snowstorm, brand new sport utility vehicle, just got cut. I'm in this place of debauchery and I'm driving. I don't remember if it was something on the radio, if it was just God's presence, but I had to pull my truck over and there was like this out of body experience where I was outside of myself looking at myself. You were even talking about this. So it's like God was going, this is the track you're going down. It could be unplanned pregnancy, disease, early death, incarceration, or you can you could just give it all to me today, tonight, go all in, and I will radically bless your life. And it was like, shook me. And that was my Saul to Paul conversion, bro. And I was like in my truck, done. And all I said was, I'm done. Because I grew up, my mom drugged me to church. I knew the deal. Jesus died for me, loves me. I'm like, it's cool. I might want to go to heaven one day, but give me some chicks now and give me, some popularity now. It was all identity.
Right.
And in that moment, it was like this revelation of who I am in Christ. I'm forgiven. I'm a favored son of the Most High God. And it was like, boom, he just downloaded it.
Yeah.
And, again, saved that moment. And then Kurt was literally a couple months after that, not even a couple of months after that.
So you're back in Ames, you have that experience.
Yep.
And then
you get called up.
So because I got cut by New York.
Right.
Well, I'm done.
Right.
Well, I give my life to Christ in my truck. And literally within a couple of weeks, the New England Patriots call out of the blue. My agent calls. He's like, hey, they want to sign you. So fly up to Foxborough. You'll sign your contract. They'll send you to NFL Europe. Well, Kurt has the same experience. St. Louis signs him. Well, he's in Des Moines at the time. I'm in Ames, half an hour away.
Yeah.
So Al Luganbill, our head coach for Amsterdam in the NFL Europe, calls us. He's like, yo, Kurt's going to be our starting quarterback. And I was a quarterback in college, but they removed me to receiver.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys need to get together before training camp in Atlanta, get to know one another. So Kurt would drive up a half an hour to the rec center in Lames, Iowa, and work me like to death. And, and we just hit it off. And I'm like, dude, I just gave my life to Christ. He's like, I did that a couple of years ago. And so it was just this click. We just clicked.
That's so incredible.
Go to camp in Atlanta. We make the team. He wakes me up like even in camp, we were doing 3 days. It was crazy. He's teaching me how to pray every night. And then we go and we room together in Amsterdam. And thank God, man, because how many of you know, I mean, early Christians, and it's like, you still got these demons.
Sure,
you're kind of working through to this day. It's like, bro, I got to protect myself at times. and here this spirit-led man of God who I respected was like helping me navigate this new season.
Well, and so you mentioned something pretty interesting, Todd. You said that basically you have one of the few character flaws that when exploited can lead to radical success. What I mean by that is that you have this fear of failure, of being rejected.
Such a good point.
You know what I mean? But like, what other character trait leads to an NFL career? You know, like a negative, you know what I'm saying?
And that's why I was trying to give you the both.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there where, you know, I'm going to show you, dad, or I'm going to show you, girlfriend, or whatever. So it's power. Tragically, though, if it's not converted into, you know, man, I know who I am. Now I want to maximize what God's given me.
Yeah.
And it's a mind shift of maximizing stewardship and doing it for other people and God's glory other than your own glory. And it's a shift in mentality. And
so at Iowa State, you played quarterback.
I did.
And I'm imagining in high school you played quarterback.
I did, yes, sir.
And so then you go to the Jets. And do they tell you when you're drafted, hey, we want you to be a wide receiver?
Yeah.
So like, what's that? You talk about identity. The quarterback is like the star of the show, right? And now you're going and you're playing a position that you hadn't played since what, Pee Wee League?
Never played it. So here's what I tell people. I just told this story recently. Imagine going to, you know, the highest level of football and you've never played the position.
Right.
So I'm literally showing up and you got Keyshawn Johnson, Wayne Corbett, you got all these cats. I'm literally like 8th string. And here's how I learned how to play receiver. Ready? I watched them. I'm literally in the back of the line, watching their feet, watching their hands, watching their eyes, watching their routes. I literally have no idea. I'm watching them. And, you know, and I was a quarterback, so I understood route concepts and I understood, but it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You have a pro quarterback throwing you like bullets,
right? And
you have to be precise on your routes. And so it's actually been my learning style is just watching. It's how I learned how to preach. I didn't go to, you know, I went to Bible college a little bit. I watched a pastor that I loved preach. And like to this day, when I give an altar call, it's his altar call prayer.
Right. You pattern it after.
I'm like, dude, I'm just watching what he does. Yeah. And still who I am.
Sure.
My own personality and try to be authentic to who I am. But that's how so it's a backside weakness because now as a lead pastor, I'm terrible at training. So I have to surround myself with good people who train better. Because I'm like, oh, just watch what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
OC, just watch what, you know, my executive pastor, just watch what I do. You'll be good.
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't work for everybody.
But I need something more, man.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I think we can all kind of guess, those of us who've never made it to professional sports, of what it's like to have a faith and how challenging that must be in that field, in that world. Yeah. Talk to me about that. What is it? How challenging is it in that specific field?
On a scale of 1 to 100.
Here's again, let's go back to identity, because if I'm fully convinced I have all I need in Christ, I know who I am. I'm not as needy for other people's approval or to be in the in crowd anymore. I'm a human. So I want to have friendships and relationships, but I'll be honest with you, man, there's a shift even in that. And Kurt helped me with this. We're going to build bridges. We're going to reach these guys through relationship and serving. So you'd have guys that would peel off their ankle tape in the locker room, throw it, and we just serve. We'd pick up, you know, ankle tape, put it in the trash. We'd be getting, you know, away. We'd be getting on the plane for an away trip, getting guys meals and giving them to. So there were little ways where you would just serve. We led with service and unconditional love, not judgment. And it built bridges, man. And one of my favorite stories was at the end of my career. I'm in the Arena Football League in Georgia. I get cut week 10 and our biggest, meanest, you know, dude on the team, D lineman, I get cut and we're all in this apartment complex together.
Yeah.
I'm packing up a U-Haul, my twin boys, they're like 3 years old, my wife, and we're leaving. And he comes out and he's like, oh, dog, they did you wrong, dog. I can't believe they cut you. And I looked at him, I'm like, you know, I appreciate your encouragement, but you know what? God's in control. What can I control? I'm going to remain, you know, work my tail off and see what happens next. And he kind of just looked at me like I had 3 eyes. But there was this building of relationship that he saw like, okay, that's different than every other player that gets cut that he's talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not trying to boast on me. This was
Sure.
just the grace of God and giving you a different identity, different perspective. And I honestly, I'll be really honest. I miss the locker room.
Yeah.
I really, really miss the locker room.
What parts?
Yeah.
Every part of it. I loved all the guys. They knew where I stood. I'd go to a new team. I wasn't all that talented. So I get cut a lot and I'd be moving to another team. One of the first things I would do is I'd open up my Bible and just like, not in a weird way, but like I wanted to early on for them to know kind of who I was. But the rest of the time, I mean, I'm building bridges and I just miss the camaraderie. I miss the sweat. I miss the hard days. I miss the questions. Yeah. I'd be in a training room. Maybe I'm injured. Dudes would be looking at me because that when you're in the tub, when you're in like IR, you're asking questions you aren't when everything's groovy. Mm-hmm. So the questions coming like, tell me more about your faith, or it's like, oh, I miss. Mm-hmm. There's so much I miss. I miss the competitiveness of it. So
as a Browns fan, I'm ready for Tom Brady to retire. Is the reason he's not because he can't get away from the locker room too?
You could tell he's definitely he's a camaraderie locker room guy. He's a fierce competitor.
Yeah.
And there's things like that you definitely miss for sure.
Well, and I think especially in professional sports, that identity piece is huge, but I see that too, just in our world today.
It's all over.
I think that, I heard Tim Keller say if he was someone asked him if he's starting his career over in preaching, what would be the number one topic? And he said, without a doubt, identity.
We talk about it.
Speak about
all
that,
the time. Yeah. Just recently. So I was on sabbatical and our executive pastor, we have such an amazing teaching team, but specifically our executive pastor, OC, one of my favorite humans on the planet, he just went off on that. And we try to make that consistent in our messages, mm-hmm. because at the end of the day, if I surrender, I go all in with the Lord and I understand this deep revelation of who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm a favored, loved, chosen, accepted son or daughter of the Most High God. It's the most freeing position that anyone can be in. Mm-hmm. But when you look at culture, especially with social media and how many likes and mm-hmm. the filters and this and that, it's like I'm jonesing for someone to affirm me because I'm created with this whole to be affirmed by God. Mm-hmm. And so all this other stuff comes in. And so, we're defined by what we have, what we look like, right. what people say, my position, all this. And so we try to share that as often as we can and be vulnerable. Because listen, just because I'm a pastor and I'm a Christian and I know that,
sure.
If I get disconnected from that thought at times, and then even as a preacher, you're like, dude, well, did they like that message? Or how about that illustration right there? It's like, so even when the insecurities pop back up, let's be honest and try to talk about those for the rest of us and for us, stay healthy that way.
Would you say I'm favored, loved, chosen, accepted?
Yeah, it's all in that Ephesians. It's in Ephesians 1. It's just, you're seeing Paul talk about who we are in Christ. And it's, you have all these messages peppering us everywhere. Mm-hmm. I shut down all social media a couple of years ago. I was just like, I'm not gonna, mm-hmm. and again, I think you can use that and our church does it. They do a great job of getting the message out. But for me, it's like so much of this comparison and all this different stuff. And I'm like, I just don't want to go back into that.
It's not healthy for you.
It's not healthy, man.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have any personal?
Zero. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't look at it. I don't have it personally. And again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody that does all. It's just for me personally. My conviction was, I'm a simple guy. I'm like Bible and Sports Center, dude, and working out and serving. Like I'm a minimalist, what did Jesus say? Go make disciples. Go. That's why I love what you guys do. And we clicked early on. Your disciple. It's like, go make disciples.
Right.
All the other stuff is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, if we miss those two, we're missing what he said. Mm-hmm. And anyway, stop. Preacher mode.
I want to ask one more question on the social media side, though, because I think that's such a big issue for a lot of listeners.
Sure.
So how did you know for you that it wasn't right? Because I appreciate what you said. That was for me. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But for you, what I think I heard comparison in there. But what was the triggers, or what was the few things that might be like, this is why I need to let this go?
It's a good question. For me personally, again, the blanket question I'm asking all the time, Zach, is, Lord, what are you inviting me into in this season? And I'm constantly asking that question. And that was one of the things that the Lord, I felt, spoke to me. He's like, just cut it all off. There are things from my past when it comes to, sexual sin. There are things, comparison, where, I only made it, 1 year in the NFL, and then I'm in the Arena League. Well, what about the guy that had 10 years in the NFL? Mm-hmm. So there still is a temptation at times for that insecurity to creep in, or comparison, or, I got a new phone the other day. I brought it right to OC, my main man. I'm like, put a code in my phone. Like, for the most part, God's given me this amazing freedom when it comes to my past sexually. But, if there's 4 or 5 days out of the year, if I have a bad day, or my wife and I are disconnected, it's like, I'm like, even in those days, I want to protect myself from myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there's just things in my life that I'm like, I'm not willing to even allow that even to be a possibility on my worst day. There's too much at stake, man. I mean, my marriage, my ministry, like my heart, my soul, like my children. I have 20-year-old twins. One just got married. I'm looking forward to having grandkids. It's like, nice. There's just so much more to life, and I don't want to miss out. So anyway, there's other things, but those are the main probably things that I'm like, cool. And that could change. Yeah. You could say, no, I want you to do this and that. But the beauty is we have such a good team that's so in tune with that. I'll just send them a video or do stuff, and they, and here's the last thing I'll tell you. And not everybody's with me on this, but I come from the Calvary Chapel movement. Pastor Chuck, it was never Chuck. It was we, it was us, it was the Lord, it was Calvary Chapel. So and again, no shame, no blame for everybody. Just for me personally, I'm like, I don't want Todd Doxzon on it. I want it Jesus, Love Church. Amen. So when there's messages going out, I just want God to get the glory and it to be pointed to him.
You know what I appreciate though, is that, we've both had friends in ministry that we respect and love who have fallen because of sexual sin. Yeah. And some of them were in big ministries, and you think to yourself, how the heck could that happen? And I knew this person. I trusted
any of us.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is that you're 2 clicks away from being in complete garbage.
Throwing it, completely anytime. in the dumps. But
I appreciate that you recognize that temptation and you say, okay, you know what? Whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's great.
All right. So now I heard you say the team does a great job. So now you are the lead pastor of Love Church. It's actually only a few minutes away from my home. Beautiful campus.
Oh,
how did you go from receiving footballs to slinging out God's grace as a pastor of Love Church? Like,
that's really
what? That's not a normal path.
I want to follow up with, I heard that you were running out of a school for like 12 years.
Yeah, man.
Dude, the setup and the breakdown. Yeah. So I'm getting ready to, after being in church for 19 years, I'm getting ready to plant my first church out of a school.
Come on, dude.
Out of a school. So I want to hear, because in about 12 years, I'd like a building like yours. So tell me the game plan of how to get
Are you patient enough to wait, though? That's the question.
One of the things we talk about, one of our leadership values is consistently diligent. And I've seen a lot of people throughout the years, they get really excited about stuff, and it's great. Cool. But the bigger question is, can I stay consistent with diligence, with joy, with a reservoir of peace, stay in the word for the long haul? Those are the people I'm looking for. And honestly, I think it's a great training ground to lead with culture, with consistency and diligence, who can show up early when it's a sacrifice. So for us, it was a 12-year training ground for leaders. It was a leadership development pipeline. And quite honestly, if I'm really honest with probably some church planners, it was able to weed out some people that they wanted to be kind of in the cool time and fun time. But as far as like the deep seated, I'm in this for the long haul. It was, and again, there were people that it was just a season, and the season changed. Don't get me wrong. I get all that. But those were two of the things I think that worked great. As far as like, how does a jock like become a pastor? it'd be the last thing in the world that I thought I was going to be doing, if I'm really honest. And
heard that.
At the end of my career, throughout my career, I had these connections with God. One was in Birmingham, Alabama. I had blew out my foot returning a kick, and no one decided to block on that one. And
thanks, guys.
Just got absolutely blown up. My foot was like stuck in the ground, and then it was sideways, and these bones split apart.
We call that the lookout block. Look out!
It's exactly what happened. Boy, everybody, yeah.
I felt like I did that after my last sermon I preached.
What just happened here?
Yeah.
So, in any event, I'm in Birmingham, and some guy invites me to this Pentecostal church. Never been to one before. I roll in there. The pastor after church says, "Hey, we're going to just have some time for prayer at the front." And I just went and got on my knees before God, and I felt this vision, this call and vision. And I saw a lot of people from my past, from high school friends to family. They were just coming into this church and just coming in. And it was God, like kind of like that initial, I'm going to call you to do something one day. Then a couple of years went by, I'm still playing. And then there was like another thing. We were at Bible college in Matthew class, and it was the last class, and the professor got up. It was Matthew 28, go therefore make disciples. He said, now a lot of you guys, you're familiar with the Calvary movement. There's tons on the West Coast. There's now a ton on the East Coast. But let me show you a picture. And he like goes to like South Dakota, Nebraska. There's like one. And I looked at my wife, and I'm from here, and I'm like, no, because I wanted to go back to Fort Lauderdale and like be a part of the team there, maybe serve, like, maybe be a coach. And it was like, and then, there's just other things that went. So bottom line, it was this calling I couldn't escape. The other cool thing that happened on the way to the XFL, that was a whole nother league that I got into. We could talk about that. But in training camp, right before I got to camp, I went to this Calvary Chapel in Phoenix, Arizona. And the preacher got up, and it was at the end of the year of 2000. And he said, I challenge you to read through the Bible in 1 year. And there was these reading guides on the way out. And I'm like, dude, no way. There's no way. I'm a jock. I don't really like reading all that much. Like,
Leviticus is
I'm
hard.
a newer Christian. I'm like, I'll read the proverb of the day, maybe a little John. The pastor will fill all that in,
Sure.
And so, but I'm walking out. My wife elbows me on the way out to pick up this stupid reading guide. Well, I go to camp, and as you mentioned, I go from quarterback to receiver. My legs are sore after every practice. I get in the ice tub for 15 minutes. I got this little mini Bible. I'm like, I might as well pass the time with something good. Well, 2001 was the very first year I read through the Bible in a year.
Wow.
And then the year after that, and then the year after that. And that was the thing that just completely that changed everything to this point where, okay, in our off season, we'd have a little small group. When I retired, that small group started turning into a church. I called my pastor in Fort Lauderdale. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do this. He's like, come down here. We'll put you on staff. It'll be on the job training. Then we'll kick you back out to Omaha. And
so they helped you plant? Oh,
they did an amazing job. The Calvary movement's a little bit different when it comes to church planting. They'll, you feel called. We see a calling. Cool. And Bob went over above and beyond to put us on staff. And we actually were at the Boca Raton campus. So we got to basically lead this campus with some other pastors. It was almost like a test pilot church plant to learn a little bit and then go back. So they, it was a couple of years, and they prayed for us on a Wednesday. They're like, good luck, buddy. And they don't send you with money and people. They're like, hey, go get a job, start teaching. And if you're called, it'll actually turn into something. So we moved back, got 3 jobs.
Wow.
Ran out Kiewit Middle School was the first one. And then a year later, the principal said, come up to Millard Norris. We'll put you in the auditorium. And that was, the rest is history.
There you go. Millard North grad right here, baby. So,
let's go, baby.
Yeah, it's a great high school there, Chris.
Wow, I heard.
It's a great spot.
Yes.
That's an awesome story. So when did you get started?
So March of 2008. So Easter 2008 was our first worship encounter. Yeah.
So what, 14 years?
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Wow.
And I love your mission statement at the church: for God's people to experience the best for their lives.
Yeah.
So
God's best for their lives.
God's best for their lives.
See, that's different. I just want them to experience a decent thing. That's what and
I'll settle for decent.
People were
decent.
not really clinging to that.
Oh, there you go. Maybe you can change your new mission statement before you get
like,
going.
Wow,
That's
you're
good.
really shooting well.
The ink's still wet. You can
Sure.
Under promise, over deliver.
100%. That's what I have always been saying.
All right, so I want to know, help them experience God's best for life. So what keeps God's best from happening in people's lives, and how do you help them get that?
Me, I mean, it's interesting. It was a handful of years ago, Zach, that it was a really healthy process of refining vision, asking the hard questions. Like, why are you really in this still, Todd?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you, and my wife and I specifically were able just to get with the Lord, and it was really refreshing, because I was like, no, I still really want every single person I run into to experience his best, to experience God's best for their life. It's not, now I'm a professional pastor, and I was trying to get to the very core. And I'm called. I know I can't escape the calling, create self-feeders, all this kind of stuff. But there was this better thing that just started surfacing. Like, I can authentically say on a Sunday or any other day when I'm running into someone in the gym or the grocery store, like, I look at them and I go, man, I just, someone cutting my hair. If they're not experiencing the fullness of God living out his best plan according to his word works. Mm-hmm. And it breaks my heart. I'm like, how can I help them? How can I build a bridge and pray that God opens up their eyes like he did for me?
Yeah.
No judgment, no shame, no blame, but man, I genuinely want that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, that motivation for me is super healthy, because it's genuine.
I think that's what draws me so much to someone like you, because
you have minimal motivation.
No, I'm the same way. That, like,
you see phony. I mean, in the church world.
Yeah.
And again, great people and all that kind of stuff. But let's be honest, at times you hit dry seasons, or you hit a different season, or maybe God's wanting to move you to something different. But because, this is my lifestyle, he's my kid. It's like, it almost boxes you into this place, and you see that. And I was fearful of that, honestly. If I'm really honest, I'm like, I don't want to live that way. I want it to be completely authentic. Now, you're gonna have rough patches and dry patches and all that kind of stuff, but I want to live authentic. I think that's one of my favorite things about our team. Like, just bring it real, man. Yeah. Like, don't be a phony. Bring it real. If you're having a tough season, we're all gonna have that, but let's be authentic. And I think, anyway, that's one of the things what we talk about.
Well, and in your authenticity, that's where God has an opportunity to work, right? And so when we can actually create authentic relationships where we can be honest with each other, as opposed to being like, how it is on Sunday. Hey, how's it going? Great. How you doing? Great. All right.
Highly favored, brother.
Oh yeah. My wife just left. What?
What?
But I think reclaiming like that, the best, and like remembering that God is a God who blesses, that God loves, that God we have such good news.
Exactly.
And I think words that so often the church and disciples are not known for as much are the things that our world is most needing: fulfillment, joy,
totally,
happiness.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've been on this little like sidekick underneath all of the things I'm doing. And you preach, a lot of times, but every now and then you're like, I really actually liked that message that I preached. and probably my favorite one this year was I preached a message on, does God want me to be happy? And like trying to redefine and help people see that, yes, God wants something great for you. God's happy. Why wouldn't he want you? Heaven's going to be a party. What about any of this is not happy?
So good.
And so, like, bringing back those words, his best, fulfillment, these things that's a part of our story. That's a part of our testimony. That's that right. I think is so important. And so I love that you have a church that pushes that celebrates that. So, and so that's the mission for experience God's best for the lives. The method, and I'm an alliteration guy with you, so I love it.
He is.
The 5 S's. I also love the number 5 with alliteration. So you've got, this is the method to accomplish the mission. These 5 words: surrendered, surrounded, spirit-led, self-fed, and sent. Now, we could spend an hour on each of those. But like, which one of those do you see right now as maybe the strongest naturally for a disciple of Jesus, and which one might be the weakest naturally? And I recognize everybody's a little different, but overall, collectively.
Yeah. Well, first, the way, again, we arrived at this is we just took inventory of our 25 years walking with Christ. At that point, it was probably 20.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, okay, if we're healthy and we are experiencing God's best, what's happening in our life? And we just pared it down. Well, I'm surrendered, not just the first time to Christ, but every day to his, I'm surrounded by, other believers. We're not perfect people, but we have the same goal of moving forward, spirit led. One of the things I challenge people when they wake up, pray the prayer, kill me, fill me, send me. It's like, fill me with your spirit, send me. Right. And self-fed is our asterisk around our ministry. So in the body of Christ at large, the main lane that we run in is self-fed, like training people to study their own Bibles from Genesis to Revelation every single day, not as a religious routine, but as an opportunity to get to know God every day. Like that's our secret sauce, if you will, our asterisk. So that would be our number one. And then sent, what I found is this, especially us more seasoned Christians, is this: if I'm not careful, all four of these first four are going on, but the sent gets stopped, and I'm not on mission. I'm not sharing my testimony. I'm not sharing the gospel. I'm not serving someone. And all of a sudden, it's like a cesspool. It's like, it's not a river flowing. It's not God flowing through my life, and I'm not on mission. I'm like stagnant, and I'm like dying, and I don't even know why. I'm depressed. I'm like ornery. It's like a cesspool. It's not the river flowing anymore. So I feel like that would be a major focus for us is, and I'll just be honest. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I've been complacent. I've been materialistic. I'm zoning in on me. And I'm wondering why I'm depressed, or I'm wondering why I'm edgy, or I'm off. Joy, Jesus, others, you. We had a prayer meeting this morning, and I was like, dude, so many. I'm like, me. There's no Jesus sometimes. There's no others sometimes. And there's no you. I don't care about, you're good. It's me. What about me in my life? And I'm wondering why I'm zapped and I'm out of energy and I have no joy in my life. And so I think the sent piece, again, go make disciples. So it's this, stop being complacent, get uncomfortable. One of the things that we do, we have lists on our phone. So we're always asking God to open doors for ministry, sharing testimony, praying for people, blessing people. And so we have on notes, I have a Love Out Loud 2022 season 1. And then when I meet people, I'll just write their names down, maybe a little description of what and just pray for them. And it's like another pastor on our team, it's as you go list. And so he's the evangelist of the crew. So he's putting it down, and I'm alive. Yeah. And then but I can look at that list and go, dang, bro, like, when's the last time you wrote someone on your list? Okay. Like you spiritually constipated right now is what is happening. Funny. The flow ain't happening, dog. It's like,
so Zach told me something about you. So I've been working with youth for 19 years now. And he said today something that was miraculous to me. You had a prayer meeting.
First time I met him. Yeah.
So at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was mostly high school and college age students.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah.
What do you give away? Like donuts or something? What are you doing over there at Love Church?
I was blown away because I remember I wanted to get to know you coming to Omaha and trying to just figure out what the landscape of Christianity church is like here.
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, man, come meet. And, we do a prayer meeting and then we'll do breakfast after. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'll probably show up and there's going to be 4 guys there.
Right.
Or whatever. And I showed up and there's 100 people and at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, and half of them were students, college age, high school.
Awesome.
Like, this is really cool. So, and part of that, like, how do you have a church filled with Gen Zers? Cause I feel like there's every generation, there's going to be more and more negativity on the younger generation. So millennials like caught it, but now Gen Z starting to catch it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's so rare. And so how have you been able to kind of capture that age group?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's the answer, honestly. Okay. I mean, I said to the people this morning at our 6 a.m. prayer meeting, I looked at them. I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, how many morning people we have? A lot of people. How many are not morning people? And I'm like, you guys are crazy. What are you doing here? Like, but there's just something about the environment. I don't know. There's, Craig wrote the book. He just actually came out with a revised version of the whole it factor. And he says it, I don't know. I can't describe it like this. It in God's presence, God's word, there's joy. There's genuine care for the young generation. I think authenticity is another big one, that all of our pastors, like, it's like pastor, like, spill the beans on yourself day every Sunday. It's like, I don't know. I don't really understand why. I looked at them, especially college kids. I'm like, the high school kids, maybe your parents headlocking you to come to the prayer meeting.
Sure.
But you're a college kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't waking up till noon in college. What are you doing here?
Amen. Right.
And, but it's just a move. It's God's touching people. They're hungry for him. There's a lot of prayer warriors at the church that's their gift. That's their lane. They, today, we broke up into, pairs and fours, and people are just praying, laying hands on each other.
Awesome.
Like, just, caring for these people, whether we had a guy, in his upper 80s, and we had, these young teens, these couple girls that are, 12 years old, and everything in between. It's cool. It's marvelous. Yeah.
Well, maybe there is no having to figure out, maybe it is the time tested mission and method of let people experience God's best, and
go through the
Spirit's there, and
just
the
simply go through the word. Like, we're in 1 Samuel right now. I'm preaching on Big Nabal and Abigail and David, and who doesn't love that story? It's like,
so that's the
Nabal, you fool.
Yeah, that's the other unique thing about Todd and Love Church and their philosophy is they have the year-long Bible that they have devotions, every day that they want, chapters every day they want their people to read, but then every week they'll preach on something in that
weekly read.
Oh, that's cool.
And so every year it's following the Bible, and
so it's not like you're doing specific sermon series. You're just going through. That's awesome.
Yeah. It comes just from what happened in my life. It's like the Bible in a year. Last year we did the Bible in a year. This year we started the Bible in 4 years. So we're doing
slowed down a little bit.
The Pentateuch and the historical books this year. And we have a secondary reading for the newer people that get them into the Gospels or Psalm, Proverb, that kind of stuff to help them.
I love it. Yeah. Well, we ask every guest the same question because we want to challenge the listeners, those disciples out there. So if you could issue like one practical challenge this week for every person that's listening to grow in their as a disciple of Jesus, like what would it be this week for them?
You caught me at a place. I just got off my sabbatical, so I'll give them a quick acronym. My acronym for this sabbatical is RESET.
Okay.
And it's rest, evaluate, saturate, elevate, and transition. Okay. And this could be, listen, you might not have 3 weeks like I just had. You might have 1 day. My challenge, turn your phone off for one entire day. No email, no phone for an entire day. Reset. Rest. Your mind, your body, your soul. Go play some pickleball, maybe swim, do some yoga, whatever. Evaluate, maybe get on your financial picture and maybe make some tweaks, or your marriage, your rhythms in your iCal, like make some adjustments. Ask the Lord, open my heart. What is it? So saturate in the scriptures and the Spirit, worship, just drive your car and just sing really loud because you have a bad voice like me. You have to worry about it. It's like, and then make those changes, elevate, and then transition back to
elevate is after you making changes.
Yeah. It's like, because you'll experience if you're really asking God to, what adjustments would you like me to make in this season? And you began practically implementing them, especially for busy people, probably a lot tweaking your schedule. You'll feel it, man.
Good.
You'll feel more vibe, and you transition back into your new adjusted schedule.
All right. So that's the challenge. If you do that challenge this week, #Red Letter Disciple, I heard reset, rest, evaluate, saturate, elevate, and then transition. Boom. Right there.
I tried to get it all together. But
I like it.
God gave it to me while I was swimming.
Alliteration and acronyms. That's my love language.
That's true.
Outside of food.
Those are
the 6th and 7th
So
languages.
this is interesting. Todd, your coach in Miami was Jimmy Johnson, the great Jimmy Johnson.
I love Jimmy, dude.
Jimmy Johnson. That is amazing.
Guy's a stallion.
Okay.
Wait.
So I'm turning it over to Chris here in just a second, which is the scariest part of the podcast every single time.
You never know what's going to happen.
Because he always has some sort of game for our guests. And because of the Iowa State thing, I wasn't sure if he was going to be.
I'm not bringing it up.
Okay.
I'm not bringing it up.
Okay.
I found something way better. Todd,
okay.
I just pulled up an article from November 24th, 1998. Doxzon option from the Sun Sentinel. Doxzon option puts Marino in wrong place. The bench. This is the article written about. Check this out.
Oh my goodness.
The zone blitz defense and short yardage offense failed, but guess who's going to play? Dan Marino? No, not the great Dan Marino. This is what happens. But Johnson seemed more stuck on something else. His running backs were going nowhere in crucial short yard situations. His proposed solution, benching the great Dan Marino and relying on option quarterback
Boom.
Todd Doxzon. Right there. Is Todd Doxzon the greatest backup quarterback / receiver in NFL history? I can't say.
Far from it.
I can't say. But I did find an article on ESPN that rates the 4 best backup quarterbacks to ever play in the game. Todd, I'm going to quiz you on this if you don't mind.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Love it, dude.
All right.
Well, and we know where the best option quarterbacks come from.
Miller North.
Miller North and the state of Nebraska.
For sure.
Wait a second.
Because you were
That's true.
Wait.
You were before. Yeah.
This is not your segment. This is not your segment.
I'm just
Crouch, the best option quarterback of all time.
D. Dallas from Air Force was really good, too.
He was nice.
But let's say, so you were born in Iowa and then you were kidnapped and taken to Nebraska? Or what happened?
I moved to Omaha when I was 4 years old.
Okay. So your best years were probably those first 3 years then.
First
Okay, I
4
get
in
it.
Iowa, yeah.
All right. This quarterback rated the 5th best backup quarterback of all time. He signed with the Baltimore Ravens in 2000. He was the backup quarterback to Tony Banks. But after the Ravens went without an offensive touchdown for 4 weeks, the losses being limited to just 2 consecutive because of a dominant defense, this quarterback, who was a backup for a while, was brought in and never went back to backup. Do you have any?
It's the really, really tall dude. What's the guy's name?
His first name starts with T.
Oh.
And he won a Super Bowl.
Okay, TD.
Flacco. Was
Nope.
it Flacco? It wasn't Joe Flacco?
No.
Okay, give it to me. I lost
Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer in 2000.
Dilfer.
All right, that's okay.
Right, he won a Super Bowl, right?
Bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
He went to
Okay.
He's always the guy that, like, they
Tampa
say
too.
he's always the one quarterback that whenever they talk about how important the quarterback is to win the Super Bowl, he's always like the exception. But remember that year that Trent Dilfer
Trent was in there.
They had such a strong.
This is the
defense.
number 4 greatest backup in the NFL history. It's fair to say that this quarterback was not the most sought-after quarterback in 2017 when he returned to the Philadelphia Eagles for a second stint, but an injury to Carson Wentz allowed him to take over the season, and the rest is history. He came in during Week 14 and led the team to victory over the Rams, which sealed the divisional title.
Then he went to the Chicago Bears.
And then, let's see, he
wears a glove. I can see him.
He also won a Super Bowl.
He did.
Yeah, he was
On the
named
Philly
Super
special.
Bowl MVP.
The Philly special, he caught it.
Yep.
That's right.
Why can't I not remember his name right now?
It starts with an N.
The last name?
No, first name.
First name.
NF.
Jeez.
Those are the initials.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm 0 for 2.
Yeah, Nick Foles.
Foles.
You know that. You
Come
know
on, you're
that.
better.
I picture both these cats. Well, actually, I got the
He
first
just
one
came
for
off
sure,
a sabbatical where he reset, and so he's like just trying to re-enter.
I have 2 questions left, and
Okay.
then I have the bonus question. If you can answer the bonus question, you officially win the game.
Oh,
These
there you
other
go.
ones don't matter. So,
Jeez.
Oh, wow.
all right,
Takes
Come
all the pressure
Coming
off.
off weak right now.
this
Weak sauce.
this quarterback became the first African American quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl.
Doug Williams.
You got it.
Boom.
Good.
All
He's
right.
on the table now.
All right. Last
board.
one.
Finally.
The
Jeez.
number 1 backup quarterback, according to ESPN and Sportskeeda, whatever that is. The gold standard for backup quarterbacks remains this quarterback.
Doug Flutie.
He joined the Oakland Raiders in 1978. I think he had 2 bars at the time. And with him made
Kenny Stabler.
Nope. The Snake Stabler. No, he was backup quarterback to Dan Pastrier.
Jim Plunkett.
That's it. You got it.
Boom.
Boom.
You got it. But
Let's
I mean,
go.
you named every quarterback in there. All right. Now, here.
Okay, I need some bonus so I can win this.
This is the
soft.
bonus question right here. Okay.
Hmm.
For 3 points for an incredible victory.
Let's go. Comeback victory right here.
The state of Iowa's nickname.
Oh, jeez. The state of Iowa?
What's the nickname of the state of Iowa?
I can't
The
say,
official-
I literally can't say Hawkeyes because I'm a
That's
Cyclone.
it. Good night, folks.
Oh my
See,
goodness.
that's why I don't trust Chris with this.
You literally
because-
pinned me into my competitive side, so I had to say that.
This whole thing has been about figuring out your weakness and exploiting it to get you to say Hawkeye
Which
State.
is competitiveness.
Boom!
You got it. Now I would say I did coach back at Millard North, Jeff Tarpinian, who went and played at
Yep,
Iowa,
yep.
and Adam Shada,
Good.
who also played at Iowa.
Yeah.
So they did convert me to a certain point. So you and I can still be friends
All
a
right,
little
good.
bit.
You're, like I said, the greatest Iowa
Well,
State graduate I've ever met.
I've
so.
lost trust in you because you said you weren't going to make it about that. And you did make it once again about you, which is not what this podcast is about.
Exactly.
But hey, we are super
It's
grateful to have you here, Todd. This was
great.
a ton of fun.
Yeah,
if people
thank
want to connect with you, you're not on social, so they can't do
Yeah,
that. You already said that.
Just give them your
But,
personal number.
Where can they find more about Love Church
Email.
and everything that you got
Yeah,
going on?
lovechurch.org or
Wow.
pt@lovechurch.org, as in Pastor Todd, pt@lovechurch.org.
Nice.
Awesome, man. You're a blessing. And
So
hopefully there's a
cool.
round 2 coming up one day.
Oh, man. Let's
All
go,
right,
man.
man.
It was so nice to
Fun.
meet you.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed having Todd in studio with us. Every time I'm around him, I'm inspired and challenged, and I hope and I know that you were today. It's really fun to hear his story of how God's worked his faith out and how even still today working his faith out. And I just loved the authenticity and the honesty of which he came onto the show. So thank you, Todd. And if you want to connect with Todd or get to visit his church online or even in person, check out the show notes, redletterpodcast.com. That's where we got everything that you're going to need, including not just how to connect with Todd and his church, but also the place for you to get to Carrie Newhoff's Art of Leading Change online course, which is an incredible course. Change is happening all the time. And so how do we lead change? Carrie and his team do an incredible job of helping us. And I know that's been a huge help for me in the different times and places where change is all around me. I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's really good to have somebody who can coach and lead and help me think about these things. And so again, theartofleadingchange.com, go there, but do it before August 31st because the price for this online course is only going to go up, and it's an awesome thing. You need to be a part of it. So next week, we've got Mark Schultz coming on the show. He's a newly retired pastor. And so we talk about like what retirement is like and how he really isn't retiring, but starting a new ministry. And get this, in his post-retirement, he's starting a ministry to the LGBTQ community. And so it's a really important conversation. And I love his perspective on how can the church, how can disciples of Jesus minister to those in that community? And what's the first most important question to ask when we're dealing with someone in the LGBTQ community? And what pitfalls should we avoid? So this is something that I think is so important. It's an urgent conversation. I'm happy we're having it here on the Red Letter Disciple podcast. So make sure you don't miss it. How do you not miss it? Subscribe or follow on your favorite platform. While you're there, if this is helpful for you or it would be for someone else, would you give us a 5-star rating? And would you even go one step further and actually write a review for us? Those mean a lot to us, and that's going to help us get the word out and do even more of these in the future. So until next time, God bless, and we'll see you back next Tuesday.